Hello, everybody. Renee Mussachio here, and I'm with Angela Congdon, and she is an amazing healer in herself. And she's here today to talk to us about not only her own awareness, enlightenment, and embodiment of her health journey, but those that she takes her clients on as well. And especially now, we all know a lot of anxiety going on, a lot of things going on. There's a lot of misconceptions on that. And Angela is wonderful at dissecting and getting things straight. So we're going to throw this to Angela. And Angela, if you could just tell us a little about yourself and your journey.
Okay, thank you, Renee, and thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited. And I'll be honest, my human part is really nervous because this is my first time of being on a podcast, being a guest, speaking out about a subject that's very near and dear and I'm very passionate about, which is the intersection of mental health, physical health, spiritual health, and emotional health. And they all converge together and they're meant to work in synchronicity with each other. And in today's world, they are seen as separate parts and they're relegated to different professionals. There's a mental health professional, physical health professional, spiritual health professional, which we call, priests and shamans and ministers. And then which one did I miss?
Emotional. Did you say emotional?
Emotional, which will come under the mental health umbrella as well. So, and I like to see them all coming together in one beautiful synchronistic operation where they're kind of like dancing together within ourselves. So I always see it as we have all these different aspects of ourselves. Some have been talking about it as our multidimensionality, but even each one of those parts of ourselves has different dimensions to it. So when they also want to factor in, there's the part of us that is our soul, the eternal part of ourselves. And it is an understanding of when is my soul speaking to me and wanting to have some attention, or is that my human part of myself? So we can look at it in those two aspects as well. So the human part is absolutely going to be the physical part, but there's also physicality for the soul as well as it comes into embodiment. Then we can be more connected to understanding, hearing, connecting with messages that the soul is trying to guide us with in this life experience. So I see myself as a teacher and a mystic because and the other thing that came to me as I was thinking about speaking in this podcast is I'm like an investigative reporter for all of these. So as I come into some challenges in my own personal life journey, I want to dive deep into it. I want to understand it. I want to know what the mechanism is of it. Although that might sound a little old world in terms of mechanistic, but I want to know how does that work, basically. That's really what I'm looking for. And so I'm looking beyond what we see with the eyes, but what we feel with our own internal guidance system as well, because that is where we connect with the unseen world as well as what we experience in the physical.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. I love it. And do you find, I mean, like in your own journey, that part of you that says, I really want to understand how this works because I'm the opposite. Like I used to be like that. And then, I flipped over and said, okay, this doesn't make any sense to me at all. And I got to let it go. But we're in two different, to me, we're in two different realms in this, although it's together. Okay. So it's that point. Do you find that a little difficult, especially like not only working with yourself, but working with, clients? Because I have to think it might be easier when you're working with clients to understand what's going on with you. of trying to figure out for yourself what's going on? What is this? How am I dissecting this to get to this point? Is that more difficult when you're doing it for you? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand the question. Yes, it does make sense. So if I'm picking it up, if I'm experiencing it, then I will have a client come into my practice that will be experiencing it. If it hasn't shown up yet for me, it will show up in the context of the therapeutic relationship. So one thing I want to be able to bring in with the listeners here is that my professional work is a holistic psychotherapist. I trained as a transpersonal psychotherapist. And so I see the holism between, as I mentioned earlier, the mental health, the physical health, the spiritual health, the emotional health. So, so if I can understand what my life journey and health challenges have been, and how those different areas are speaking to me, bringing new awareness to me, then I feel like I can help either more people or help people go deeper in their own personal journeys. So, in the context of a relationship, if I'm holding the resonance of that, or having gone through the experience of it, somebody will show up in my practice that is seeking that. If I'm not feeling it or have an awareness of it, but somebody else brings it in, then I am awakened to what is latent or in suspended animation in me. That is a tool in psychology. It's called countertransference between the therapist and the client. I call them clients. I don't call them patients. I don't see people as sick. So that is an awareness that is brought into the practitioner, me, the therapist, through that therapeutic relationship. Now, I always have a choice whether I can do a deep dive into that and go, well, what is that about? Where did that come from? Or I can disregard it. One thing I was taught very, very early with my mentor, who I worked with for 15 years before he made his transition early to 2020, is that you can only go with somebody on a journey through that process to the degree you are willing to see that in yourself and acknowledge it. That's as far as you can take it. And I thought, that resonates so true for me.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. And I thought, nah, I don't want to be carrying that anymore in me either. So I thought, there is a wisdom in the universe that brings that awareness to me through the therapeutic relationship, because this is something that I have made a soul agreement to unpack. I hesitate to use the word heal, but to bring resolution to bring closure to. I prefer to talk about it in those terms. So then I thought, okay, the other part of it is my whole health of my body, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, is like always under attunement. Kind of like when I used to play the clarinet when I was in middle school, and I loved playing the clarinet, but you always have to tune an instrument if you're a musician. My body, my whole physical body is like my instrument. It is on me to keep it in tune and clear and ready to receive what my intuition is bringing into me relative to what's going on with my client. So I can guide them through the journey as well, because they're going to get these stuck parts just like I do. I get stuck along my journey as well. So getting back to one of the points I wanted to bring into this conversation is the relationship, how we relate to the world. Our relationship is how we heal ourselves.
Yeah.
It's how we awaken. It's how we evolve. It is through the relationship that we come into a place of greater coherence with all that is divine, with God's source.
Mm.
So I see it in this huge, big context that we are all part of. And I know I've heard in many podcasts that I like to check into and kind of do a weather report on what's happening in this big evolutionary process that we're in right now. And in terms of, I just lost my train of thought for a moment. I'm getting really excited here because it's like, yes, this is a passion of mine. Through the relationship of our own self in our own soul journey is where this whole context of this evolutionary process for all of humanity resides. It is through that. Because the more attuned we can be in relationship to ourself and our soul and how we navigate through adversities and trials, and which sickness is one of those, or illness,
Mhm.
then we become greater instruments for this process of evolution and change. We can be, and so in my own personal journey, it is what has come to me recently, like within the last week. I can honestly say that being in a place of stillness in the face of turmoil and unrest and turbulence has been a big part of my growth journey. And given what's happening in our country today with a lot of unrest, not just politically, but with spiritually, religious, um, gender, age, all of those different aspects that people feel stuck and oppressed by, I can say it's like, okay, now I can hold this place of solidarity in myself. And I'm not going to say I don't get jangled or disturbed, but my ability for expanding a window of tolerance for it, to be able to hold a place of stillness in myself, has gotten greatly expanded. That's what I would wish for people, is to expand a window of tolerance where there is less reactivity and a greater access to our spiritual opening of our hearts, to have more compassion, to have more empathy, to hold solidarity of what a powerful, authentic energy of the heart truly is.
Mhm.
Full, authentic energy of the heart is not wimpy. I was actually saying this in a session just yesterday. It's not wimpy. It is strong. It is drawing the line. It is matter of fact. It is, you will not beat me down. It holds that authentic, powerful God force strength, divine force strength, and says, I put my stake in the ground right here, and I'm unshakable. And even as I say that, and I know this podcast is going out, there's a part of me that's excited, and there's a part of me that's nervous. Because I'm sure to be honest with the listeners, there is a part that I know I'm going to get blowback from it. But there's also a part of me that is why I'm doing this podcast that is unshakable about it as well.
Right. And what I also love about that, Angela, and you had said this in the beginning there, is that you you really keep yourself open for this change. And I think that's what we have to do in the world in general. You have to just keep yourself open. And exactly what you said, there's this nervousness, there's this excitement, but you are always staying open to, all right, let me hear, let me feel what else is, coming in to help my growth, because we're not going to grow otherwise. Now, in you saying that, can you expand a little on how do you stay in that place of that stillness, that peace, when there's all this stuff going on around you?
Great question. So now this is going to take me back to that therapeutic relationship. And if I think about it, this is what's coming to me right now as an example. If I think about it in the context of a therapeutic relationship, when I get rattled, because my human part does, based on what is coming up in the relationship, that the client is talking about. And one of the struggles I've had is when there's been trauma. So whether it is them talking about physical abuse, sexual abuse, childhood physical abuse, that really does get me riled. And I know it can get a lot of people riled. And I can feel the sadness. However, I also can feel what it was like in my own physical experience of being in a place of being emotionally abused as a child. So then it is not just the awareness of that, but it is allowing that teenager part of me to do the grieving. I can feel the sadness, the disempowerment that I felt, feeling gagged in those moments, feeling ostracized. I am willing to be available to that part of myself that has split out and has felt segregated and isolated. Now, splitting like that is a survival mechanism that all children have. All children will do that. So also victims of violence will do that as well. It is a very significant and not to be criticized way of how we survive in the physical body.
Mm-hmm.
So I recognize all of that. And in today's world, as I'm hearing some, people talk about, feeling oppressed, feeling ostracized, feeling scared.
Yes.
Yes, I can feel that. And what I also do is I know that if I ground myself and I connect into the power that is also coming through my heart, that I also is in a power coming through the solar plexus and the sacral chakras. This is where our personal power comes from. Then I can stay present and allow all of that anxiousness, fear to ground and run through me.
Mm.
Now that's a process. I can feel it right now. And so I'm practicing breathing and allowing it to move through my body. I can feel the sadness coming into my eyes from behind my eyes of what I can sense is going on at the social level right now, and being expressed through social media.
Mm.
And I can connect into my heart and say, yes, that is part of the human experience that is coming up to be revealed, to be talked about, to be exposed, and no longer kept in the shadow. So we talk about shadow work. Well, what is that? So I do my own shadow work of what was frozen in me that I couldn't say when I was a teenager.
Mm.
Refining, attuning, clearing out, cleaning out my whole physicality, my body as an instrument to make more space for heart to be open. And as I continue to talk, I can feel all of that nervousness in my body continue to move through. Historically, I couldn't talk. I would just freeze, which is a survival mechanism. We either freeze or we run or we're going to fight back. Right now, we're seeing a lot of fight back coming because people are scared. It is a process of untangling our emotional bodies from the collective that's based in fear. And we start with untangling the emotional body through whatever the childhood experience was that is current in this lifetime that people have either squashed, squelched, frozen in. I see a lot of thawing out right now. Or they're fighting against. That's all in the emotion. It's untangling it. If we get continual talk about fear and what's wrong and how bad everything is, it perpetuates that entanglement, and that fear ball just continues to grow and grow and grow because we're giving negative energy to it. The process is meant to be bringing it out of the shadow, out of being frozen, into the light, to be seen, to be thought, to be expressed, to be grieved, to allow it to be grieved through the heart. And as those tears get shed, then we free ourselves from the entanglement of fear that has historically said, no, you can't talk about this. No, don't say it. No, you can't air your dirty laundry in public. We can say it, but it's not to stay there. It's not the end of the journey. That's just the clearing part. The journey then is to open up the heart, to open our hearts, to know that the heart can be bigger and more expansive than the fear that it's going to get hurt again. It's expanding, it's strengthening our heart to be more connected to the divine essence, this divine energy that we truly are, that we are in the process of embodying through the grieving process, through the letting go. It's not continuing to perpetuate a tirade of tantruming, of adult tantruming. It's to let it move through, let the energy move through, so that the power that comes from the solar plexus that says, I take a stand, I exercise my voice, and I stand firmly in the love that is here to reset the human soul in a path of love-based societal connections, not fear-based societal connections.
That's beautiful. And I really enjoy, and thank you for saying that, we're what you're telling people, like, I'm based in this love base, opposed to the fear, because that's not something we really think about. We get so engulfed in this, and you said it in the beginning of that, piece, that you were tapping into, you could feel all of that fear from the societal stuff. And I think people are not recognizing that sometimes it's not necessarily their whole thing that they're feeling. It's always a piece, because it wouldn't be coming to us if it wasn't. Okay, we wouldn't be feeling that. But to recognize that sometimes it's not as big as it feels. It's not all yours. It's society and what you're tapping into. I think it's really important to, when you were saying you take this breath and you center into your heart and all that. I think it's really important that people start to do that? And I know there's in a whole process, because I know you work with people in addition to doing your own work on yourself and everything that's come up for you, from childhood and beyond. But is there a little something where, you can say to people, yes, stop, breathe, feel it in your heart? Is there something more that and you certainly gave us a lot of things in that, where you're going through the solar plexus and all the chakras and letting it wash out. Is there something that, I feel like there's a question coming in from who I
Yeah, yeah.
there's a question coming in that, okay, I'm sitting there feeling it, and now what am I doing with it? I can feel it sitting there and it won't wash away. What am I doing, and how do I know it's gone?
Okay, so good question. Then we look at the somatic aspects of psychology, which is all about the body. So we just for listeners to understand. So some of the ancient practices of somatic psychology are yoga, qigong, tai chi. So, and then there's many yoga practices as well. So it is looking at or expanding, being curious about what is in me, maybe my mental belief system that I put in place that is holding this, or where it feels like it's sluggish, it's not moving through, or it feels like it's stuck.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So then we're looking at that body, mental field, wiring that occurs, that we either, it is something in terms of how we wire ourselves through our experiences from childhood. One that came for me, let me, before I start there.
Okay.
Another practice that I like to use is EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And because I have found that cross the midbrain deactivation of the memory, the physical emotional memory in the brain, it scrambles the message, and it allows us to then more easily, where the body can disengage from that stuck part. Because there's a mental belief system that may not be in consciousness yet, that's holding that physical piece in place, the stuckness. So that stuckness can show up as an illness, a chronic illness. I was just making some mental notes earlier. So in my journey, the chronic illness was infertility. This is really big right now. Had to do with solar plexus, the sacral chakra, and the ability to create. Autoimmune disorders is another one. Huge right now. So that's been part of my journey, is to unpack what my mental constructs were, as well as how those were impacting me physiologically, as I continue to work with the doctors, work with a homeopathic doctor, work with a chiropractic doctor. So I'm addressing all my different physical, mental, emotional, spiritual systems. And so the EMDR is another way where people can begin to unlock what that mechanism is in themselves, in terms of how the mental field has a belief system that is connected to the physical body. And so that's where I want to go. sometimes it's really difficult to get through a mental construct. And oftentimes I'll just have conversations with the mental construct to find out what is the benefit of this. So so as an example for myself is one of my chronic challenges has been within the last 10 years is an autoimmune disorder. And so I was asking early on, it's like, how am I self-sabotaging myself? Because this is the body going against itself, attacking itself. The cells, the immune system is attacking cells in the body, organs in the body. So I thought, how am I doing that to myself? Well, that just opened up Pandora's box in that question, because then more of the mental construct of what I put into place in terms of survival as a child began to come into my awareness. So more recently is, I think I mentioned, I don't know if it was in our conversation, Renee, or if it was part of the beginning of our of the interview here, is that when I was really young, I was 4 or 5, I was just starting kindergarten at the age of 4, and I'd come home from school and I'd sit in the front yard on the porch and just sit in the sun. And it was so soothing. And I would just sit there. My mother would come out and feel my forehead. And she's like, there's something wrong. What's wrong? Are you okay? Are you feeling okay? And I'm looking at her, because like, no, I'm totally fine. So that started up a ongoing dynamic with my mom. It's like, you're not operating in a normal way. What's wrong with you? So I kept hearing, what's wrong with you? And she didn't even have to say, what's wrong with you? She would just look at me kind of like, something's wrong. And so she would approach me, okay, now what's wrong? So what I unpacked is that programming that there must be something wrong with me. Very early on, that came in. So autoimmune, there must be something wrong with me. What am I doing wrong? Another illness comes in. What did I do wrong? How is God punishing me in this one? I really thought infertility was a punishment from God. So I thought, well, I had unpacked that one. And then the more recent one is not with only the autoimmune, it's with colitis. So now I've got that, another label, and feeling so disempowered, which colitis is in the solar plexus. That's all about disempowerment. And going, holy cow, how did I do that wrong? So that's what I came up with just within the last couple of weeks. It's this like, I'm wrong. So we want to unpack what those mental constructs are that have the body in these health reactions to it. So the embodiment of the whole soul coming in then has new fertile ground to embody. So as it comes in, yes, it's going to heal, but as it comes in, something else is going out as well, because there is the body as the sacred temple. I always see the body as a sacred temple, and as a sacred temple, it is looking to be cleared out of old constructs that are no longer relevant for our lives as we continue to evolve. And the empowerment of being in the present moment with that, allows for the greater, the faster, speedier. I don't want to use the word speedy because I think it could be misconstrued. However, the smoothness of shifting and elevating becomes, then there's a lightness to it. And then the body will be able to respond with new cellular growth because it changes at the DNA level.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody's not sure about that or understand that, go see the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton,
Mm-hmm.
who talks about that biology of belief.
Yeah.
So, or you can see the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza as well, who talks about that. So my journey has been following a lot of the guidance from these are my early teachers from about 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
As I continue to unpack my own health challenges, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
and how the mental field and the emotional field plays into that. Because the emotion can be a place of very deep disempowerment and feeling like I can't speak up. Or if I do speak up, I'm speaking up in anger because that's the only power source that I have right now. That's what's available to me. Then by all means, speak up in anger, but allow it to move through, allow it to heal, to get to the deeper part so that we can connect to the absolute divinity that we truly are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sure if that answers everything. It
Yeah, no,
feels like that was a long answer to your question.
well, but I mean, it was beautifully said and had to be said that way, and you encompassed so many, aspects. And what I really enjoyed about that was you working with many different doctors. You sort of tied that aspect in of, you're going to, one particular doctor's, he's looking at it from this point. It's very separated.
Mm-hmm.
Things are very separated. And what I love about you and your work is you're bringing it together as one so that there is this awareness to what's going on and recognizing we're I shouldn't say we cannot, because some people may be able to do that, but most people are not going to be able to get an answer from the medical doctor who is treating one particular piece. He's not looking at the body as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
your stuff, and because I've had EMDR as well. It's amazing tool, and done to me. And what I love is your work encompasses everything. You're taking into effect every little aspect of everything and saying, okay, as a whole, this beautiful sacred body, as you said, coming in and really allowing this to release. And I'm going to sort of loop back a little here to, is there a somewhat easy, and I know that there's really more process, but a somewhat easy thing people can do to, when they have this awareness or just an awareness of, I'm feeling this anxiousness, I'm feeling this whatever, and I know it's maybe something from my childhood, but now having the awareness and the knowing that this is also coming in from society right now because everything's going amok. What is it that I can do? I can breathe, I can feel this, and then what?
So, okay. So it's a daily practice. There's a daily practice. So, and I'm not going to just say meditation.
Right.
However, that is a piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a piece of it. It's a daily practice that I use to check in with myself, to be in contemplation within myself. Say, okay, body, what is it that you need today? What is it how can we work together here? How can I be of service to you, my body? What kind of downtime do you need and require?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of sleep do you require? What kind of Maybe different foods do you require? Could you use the services of a body worker? Could you use the services of a chiropractor? Could you use the services of a homeopath? Although it's all, at least in this time, they're all segregated. But we're the being that occupies this body. This is our life. Finding the power to say, thank you for sharing. I really appreciate, this would be my conversation with an allopathic doctor, is that's good information. I'm taking it under advisement, and I'm going to go seek counsel from other care providers. But there's also got to be able to check in with yourself on a daily basis to think, how am I doing with myself today? There is a meditation that I like to encourage my clients to engage in, especially if there is this emotional, mental, physical misalignment going on. And Dr. Daniel Siegel is an interpersonal neurobiologist from UCLA here in Southern California. Here in California, I'm in the north, he's in the south. And he developed a guided meditation called the Wheel of Awareness. It has been studied in PhD programs and by his PhD candidates. It has been determined to have great efficacy for vertical as well as horizontal brain-body reintegration. It was developed to help people with anxiety, depression, trauma. It works with some of the other mental health disorders of bipolar disorder. And those are the ones. I'm not sure about the autistic spectrum. That one I'm not going to speak about because I'm not sure 100%. However, is it a daily practice that helps integrate all these body systems? Absolutely. Absolutely. It helps to integrate the mental, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual. It's a beautiful practice. It takes 30 minutes. So it's being in that daily practice as an adjunct to people that like to walk or on a healthy, particular food plan that supports their physical health, that likes to get to the gym and exercise. All of those are wonderful. But for the mental health and the physical health coming together, a meditative practice. I do Qigong on a daily basis or get out and walk. So it is all of those that helps to maintain what I had said earlier in terms of looking at our body as an instrument and tuning it.
That's beautiful. And you're right, we have to. And I think we tend to, at least I know for myself, a lot of times I will tend to take care of everybody else and everything else first instead of there, but it's a matter of like stopping. Now, I'm going to ask this silly question. When you're tapping into your body, you're taking the time for you. Are you doing this first thing in the morning? Does it fluctuate depending on what your day is or what you've done in the morning? Like, okay, I meditated this morning. Well, now I'm going to do my Qigong or my yoga or my Tai Chi or my whatever. Like, do you spread it out? Because I think people think you've got to get into a pattern of, yes, this is every morning I do this. And if they miss one morning, they're like, oh, I'm done. So I'm curious to see how you do yours because I know you're pretty busy.
Yeah. So good question. I do all of the above.
Oh, beautiful.
I'll do it first in the morning, first thing when I get up in the morning. I used to shower in the morning to get myself awake, and then I would get into a Qigong practice. Sometimes I'll split it up depending on how my day goes. So I may do part in the morning and part in the evening. This is kind of what I'm doing now. I'm doing part in the morning and part in the evening.
Mhm.
So it doesn't have to take a lot of time. I think that's an old paradigm where I need to take, a couple hours at the end of the day and go to the gym. So it's a 10-minute walk outside. Could just be that.
Mhm.
It is 3 days a week. It could be either in the morning or later in the day or in midday, depending on what your body needs or what anybody's body the body needs,
Mhm.
and to say, here's how I'm going to support myself during the day. So I like to have my practice in the morning because it sets the tone of my body and me in my body for the day,
Mhm.
in relationship to my body. So I have I and my body requires that. Actually, if I'm going to be functional,
Mhm.
it requires this. Like, I have to eat to be functional,
Mhm.
to sleep to be functional. All those basics are so fundamental and so incredibly important. So in the morning, I have a connect in with my guides meditation practice. And then I have a Qigong practice. And then I eat an old fashioned Midwestern hearty breakfast because I want my body fueled, attuned, and clear and ready for the day. So, and then I'll do some follow up at night. I do some back exercises at night to keep my back loose. And so,
Yeah, that's
and
perfect. And I like that it's the morning and the evening. So you're starting your day off, you're ending it, really paying attention to you, which really over time is giving your body such great, not only awareness, but just this great feeling of love, like you're working together. It's really fine tuning this instrument. Like, look at, we're working together, finally in doing this. And what I think is really important is exactly what you said. You're doing all the above. Like sometimes it's here, sometimes it's there, and just letting people recognize that you can do it at any time. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. Even if you just sit where, like earlier, where you were saying, I'm just breathing and dropping into the heart and letting things flow. People can do that right on their lunch hour. People can do that right at their desk.
exactly, you can do it on, like, walk outside of the office, be in your own physical space,
Mm-hmm.
go sit in your car if you need to, and just practice breathing. Practice, just be and breathe. Do the deep belly breath. So one of the breathing techniques I like and that I share in my practice is a 4-4-5 breath. So if they're feeling a bit anxious from a phone conversation or an interaction with a coworker, or in today's world, a parent and the teen, that you can say, I'm going to take a 10-minute break. I'm stepping away, and you breathe into the count of 4. It's a hold to the count of 4. It's an exhale to the count of 5. So you want that exhale to be longer because that allows you to completely empty the breath down deep to the diaphragm. So when you take that next breath in, you're doing that deeper belly breath.
Mm.
And it's just 3 rounds of that.
Mm.
Oftentimes I'll start my sessions with that, depending on where the client is. Oftentimes they're pretty rattled by the time they get in, or
Mm.
they've had some kind of a flare up, and we start there. Because to be honest with the listeners, I kind of need it too, because I can get rattled. It's like, oh yeah, I'm feeling the rattledness there.
Mm.
So to attune into a place of more stillness, that we do it together. So,
Beautiful.
and that you can do too with your child. It's like, let's pause and breathe. We can breathe together.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's so such a powerful breath. And when people say, "Well, I don't have time to do this," you're breathing anyway. So just change it up a little because it
Yeah.
really This really makes such a difference, such a huge difference. And the more you're doing things, the more you're going to pay attention to your body. Because another question is like, you're saying, okay, I'm tapping into my body. And you're okay, body, what is it you need? Whatever. And I can hear 1,000 questions coming. Well, how do you know what your body's saying? How do you know what do you do? And I think the more, at least for me, the more that I would do things for me, my body, and pay attention, and I do this chi machine, and I do my meditation and different things, the more I'm really tapped in. And it's just a knowing. I think people are expecting the body to speak like you and I are speaking, literally come out with this with it. And it's, really trying to explain to people, no, it's this, like for me, it's a knowing. What is it for you when you're speaking to your body? How are you getting that answer? If you can answer that.
So let me give some beginning places of how I got to this knowing.
Oh, excellent.
Is you can step into the body. So we're going to look in terms of what is the felt sense of the body. People understand that they feel stress. There's stress in the stomach. There's stress in the gastrointestinal tract. There can be stress in the hips, in the low back, in the shoulders, in the jawline. It's looking at sensations of tension and stress or nausea in the stomach. It's the body speaking through all of that. It's like, well, what is that about? What am I tense about? What is my jaw clenching about? What is the back of my head feeling about? What is this tension in my head? It's like the body's tense. It's saying, hey, I'm tense right now. Pause and breathe. Pause and breathe. So we're going to look at body sensations and differentiate that from feelings and emotions. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling afraid. I'm feeling irritable. I'm feeling like grieving. I'm feeling heaviness. I'm feeling lightness. I'm feeling excitement. I'm feeling joy. I'm feeling happiness. Or I'm feeling worry. So we want to distinguish between body sensations and the emotions, because the emotions, as they compound, will make the body sensations very evident. If we don't feel them when they're in the small voice, the body will start to say, I've been trying to tell you that I've been under a lot of stress and the stomach's been clenching, but you haven't really seemed to pay attention to that. So one or two things are going to happen. Either the clenching is going to get worse, or the emotion is going to get worse. It's just going to intensify because there is a shift of awareness that is trying to get the awareness of the mind to say, oh, I wonder what that's about. Oh, I don't understand that. I don't see this. I can't see this. And it'll just get louder. So it's that, it's just like, oh yeah, that'll happen. It'll get louder. Mm-hmm. I haven't been able to say no to something, or I haven't been able to say yes to something, or I'm in an old pattern of avoidant and I'm not ready. That's legitimate, is to acknowledge that I'm in a pattern of avoidant because I'm not ready, or I'm afraid. I need to take care of this first before I go over here and do this. So it's beginning to expand curiosity and check in with your body, with yourself, with your emotional body, your physical body, your spiritual body. What's my soul trying to say here? My soul can't get through the anger right now. Or my soul can't come through the heart because my heart's hurting. My heart's wounded. There's a wound, and I'm angry. I'm speaking from my anger because my heart hurts. So that is all that checking in with the self then brings in greater awareness, of how to operate within the totality of our physicality, all the systems.
Mm-hmm.
There's a one other thing I want to share with listeners is a simple practice that I started working with my clients. I worked with people in early addiction recovery.
Mm.
I spent 5 years working in residential treatment, working with families, helping them to understand what the dynamic was within the family and how to reset the family system to support the recovery of the person with the chemical dependency issue. So it's called the thinking feeling loop. So it's just beginning to say, okay, I have this issue. I found myself in the situation and I didn't like it. And then ask yourself, what comes first? Do I have a thought about it or do I have a feeling in my body about it?
Mm.
Because it depends on an individual orientation. Sometimes people will have a thought, well, they shouldn't da 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 da. Or they're going to have a feeling. It's like, oh, I feel sick about that. Or I feel afraid about that. So recognizing which one happens first. And then if it's the thought first, then ask yourself, well, what's my feeling about that thought? And you write down what the feeling is. What's my thought about that feeling? And you write down the thought. What's my feeling about that thought? And you just keep going back and forth until you get to a place where, and then I do this, and then the action comes, the behavior will show up. I run, I fight, I get angry, I get afraid. There's something, there's a behavior. I lash back, I freeze. Like, oh, that's what happens. So for clients that I was working with that were in addiction, I'd go drink.
Mm.
Or I would go eat this thing. So it's a real simple exercise that you can do with yourself to be in inquiry around where'd that thought come from? What's going on? How do I feel? What's the thought about that? What am I telling myself about that? What am I telling myself about that? I feel you shouldn't feel that way. Oh, you're just a wimp. You do that all the time. You're wimping out. You should. All of that narrative stuff is so self-inflammatory
Mm.
because then you connect into this critical, judgmental voice. It's like, oh, that's running in me. Oh, I didn't recognize that. I'm actually criticizing myself. Oh, that's right. That has familiarity to it from when I did this when I was a kid, and you can take it back to the childhood and go, oh, that's my wounded child. That's the voice of him or her. Oh, that's not my adult. Then we claim back the wounded child. We tell the wounded child, that wasn't fair for you to have to deal with that. We tell the wounded child, you are not responsible for that. We tell the wounded child, you are okay. It's not your fault. We tell the wounded child, I'm the adult now, and I am here to protect you. You may not be aware that I am here to protect you. You don't have to be afraid anymore. It's all an internal process.
Mm-hmm.
And we come back to a place of wholeness because that fragmented part then gets reintegrated back into the wholeness of our being. It no longer operates as a rogue part of us, taking us into fights or anger, or taking us into fear and withdrawal. So that thinking, feeling loop is a really powerful process that you can do. And if it feels like it's a big, then seek out the help of a mental health care provider that does somatic work as well. So it's mental and physiological. It's an integrative mental health care worker. That would be my recommendation because I see the importance of the somatic piece.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And everybody pay attention to that, because that is, I mean, the golden nugget there that you gave you. It's what an amazing tool that is, and to really stay with it. And I'm sure there's going to be times where you're going to be doing it and you're not going to be happy with it, even if you have to step away, but come back to it and really follow through with that, because you will set yourself free in ways that you will never even imagine. We've got to, get down to that point, which I love.
Yeah.
It's just like, Ed, I want to go sort of to the external things happening, and blame there for other people, and what we're feeling internally. Like, I don't know if I'm really describing that well enough, but I feel like we're connected. You're like, okay, I know what she's doing. I know where she's going with that. Because I think right now, and we touched on this earlier, there's so many external things going on, and everybody's giving their power there and doing all of that. And this person and that person, where we've got to come back in to us. And I know that, in your journey, and I really believe in everybody's journey, we've all done that. We've all given the power up, or we're still giving some up, and using the excuses and blaming everybody else for everything instead of taking that responsibility. But now, how do you, or what words of wisdom do you have for that aspect, where the external versus the internal power struggles, emotional aspects, feeling, all of those things? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. That's a big question. That's a big question.
We
It's
like
like,
to
how
hit big things here.
do I get out of a power struggle? Oh boy.
Or how have you done that for yourself? And that, because you've gone through so many things, healing your own life, healing different stuff, and that all comes into play.
So I recognize for myself, I recognize that I'm no longer available to interact in this struggle.
Nice.
I am no longer willing to interact with you, whoever the other is, in the context of a struggle. I don't want to I don't want to do this anymore. However, I am available to interact when calmer waters, when calmer brains are back online, and I'm willing to have a conversation, but I'm not willing to fight. And sometimes I just have to say that.
Yeah. And that's powerful. I mean, talk about taking your power and standing in your power. That is a powerful thing to even think. And then to say it, like, how phenomenal is that? Because I feel like, and I know a lot of people work remote, now, so this might not be as much as it was before, but social media is a big thing. I feel like a lot of people got in that habit of, oh, I'm standing there getting my coffee, I'm doing whatever, and we're starting to complain about everything that's going on around. And what I love what you said is, somebody can be complaining and you're just thinking, I'm not willing to go into that, because that is a struggle, that is a fear, that is a worry, that is a concern. And the more energy you're putting to that, the more the world's gonna, turn into that. So I love that aspect. It's so simple, yet so
It's very,
difficult to do.
yeah, it is. And one of my teachers, I loved her work, Pema Chodron. She did this is back in the old day when we had DVDs. She did a teaching on don't bite the hook.
Mm.
I love that phrase. And I play that over in my mind. Don't bite the hook.
Mm-hmm.
Say, I'm not available right now. I'll get back with you. You don't have to say you're there. There's nothing about you this and you that and you that, because then you've bitten the hook. But if
Yes.
you can say, yeah, this isn't a really good space for me to be in. This is my internal. It's like, yeah, this is not a good space for me to be in. And then I'll just say, I can see this is important to you, but I'll have to circle back with you on it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that. I love that way of saying that, because it is. It's such a, you're not taking anything from them. They can stay in that case. I'll circle back, on that. And we know you won't. That's because it's not where we're going. And I think that, that's so important for people to think about and remember when you're interacting on social media and different things, because, I'll see it all the time I do this Nextdoor app, and it's just interesting to me how people will get on there and somebody asks a question and the hate that comes at them is crazy. And then somebody always ended up saying, this is nothing but negativity. This is a ridiculous platform. I'm leaving. And I'm like, it's interesting that you felt the need to say that instead of just leaving. Like, don't engage. Don't, I
Yeah,
was like, I'll read something and I was like, wow, that's interesting. And I don't engage. Like, it's like, okay, I'm not going to bite the hook. I'm not taking the hook. I think it's important for people to recognize that and stand in their power. Because
yeah,
not only is that an external thing, internally, you can feel yourself if you're really paying attention. And if you're listening to everything Angela's been saying, the more you're paying attention to your body and you're having that dialogue, you will feel that when you have the whole thing of like, I'm not going to enter into the struggle, I'm not biting the hook, however you want to say it, you will feel yourself ground more into you and really go into that, what you were referring to earlier. And I think that was, before we started recording, of that beautiful stillness, the stillness that you've, gotten yourself to, because
yeah,
that's a beautiful place to be.
yeah. It is. It's a peaceful place to be. It's a very powerful place to be, because then the availability of solution, it can come from a deeper uh, place inside, and it may be a solution you hadn't considered as a viable solution, because if it's coming from the mental, I need to fix it now, I need to fix it now, I need to fix it now. And I say to myself, pause and breathe. That's an option. I'm going to give it some more time. I'm going to sit with it and see what else comes forward. That, okay, brain, thank you for sharing. Noted, and I'll write it down. But then
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what else. And then I get these ahas and these awarenesses when I'm in stillness. And
Mm-hmm.
for the viewer, stillness can be in the shower.
Right.
Stillness doesn't have to be sitting in meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Stillness could be just driving, not on the freeway here in California, but just driving in a neighborhood street or on a walk when I am not trying to think of it. Let my brain go into stillness, and then the ideas start just to kind of bubble up from within, going, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. I really like that idea. Oh, and I get a whole visual of it then.
Nice, nice. If you
And
don't
that,
write it down, do you forget it? Like I find that because I used to get them in the shower a lot, and then I get out of the shower and I'm like, oh, what was it? It was so awesome.
yeah,
Like, it's gone. And what
yeah,
Tracy and I were having this conversation, or what we started to do was saying, okay, I've got a notepad in my mind. So now when I'm in the shower and something comes in, I'm like, okay, put that in that notepad. And then I get out and I'll go to write. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, oh, and then I heard the one day, like, why don't you just ask in the notepad in your mind to get it? I'm like, oh, okay. And it brought it right back. So I was like, oh,
yeah.
okay, cool. Put it down. But I find that are you like that? Do you like get these big things and like, okay,
It's in a picture. What I get is a picture, because then I take a screenshot of it. Then I can remember it. A
perfect.
screenshot in my mind of a picture.
I love that. It's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. And then sometimes I'll make a visual of it.
Okay.
So actually, I'm just going to move from the camera just here briefly. And something I love to do is called soul collage. And the one that I was looking for, I couldn't find. However, this is what a soul collage looks like.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So this is a picture of my soul and me on the journey of life through
Oh,
the spiral of time.
that is beautiful.
So, oh, I don't know. I did this when I was probably around early 2000.
Oh, wow.
So I've been more like 2004, I think would be more accurate because I was already in grad school and we're transpersonal psychology and really looking at how the spirit interacts with mental health, how what that component is, transpersonal psychology. So that's like, oh, I have this guidance of me. Some people could say, well, that's the angel looking over my shoulder as I am getting ready to jump off the cliff into this journey. What that was. Yeah, I was on this big journey during that time. Um, so that's another way of, I would say, doing something creative that allows connection to the soul. Um, Soul Collage is a trademarked name. You can find it on YouTube. Sina Frost was the developer of it. She's here. She was here in California in my area. And she developed it. I'm not sure if it was the 70s or the 80s. I came in contact with it during grad school in 2004, 2005. So anyway, it's a beautiful way of connecting in with that part of ourselves, that our inner intuition, our inner guidance system.
Mm,
And so this is not making a pretty picture.
right.
However, it is more or less about getting a message that our soul has for us relative to our life journey. And was my life going to be like the spiral and like the inside of a nautilus shell? Yeah, it was. It was. You can also realize the significance of the spiral because it's infinite. It continues to unfold, continues to unfold. It's actually a mathematical construction in terms of how that spiral unfolds.
Yeah. And all
I,
the side roads in there where you can.
Little compartments,
Mhm.
and there's stairs too.
Mm,
So like life is the journey of a spiral. And what I usually tell my clients when they're beginning the process is if you think about a spiral, or if you take a slinky, I don't know if those of you that or the older generation understand slinkies, which is kind of like a spiral band that you can stretch apart. And
mhm.
if you stretch it apart and you start at the bottom, I start my journey at the bottom. And I know that I'm going up a spiral. It's not a staircase. And that if I get up into the middle rungs, it's like, wow, I've really made progress. And oftentimes, where the spiral bends, you might feel like you're going off a cliff. However, just know that when you land, you're going to land on a spiral just below it or a couple down. You're not all the way to the beginning. Although your emotional body may say, I think I've gone down to the beginning again. It feels like I'm at the beginning. In reality, although the feeling has a familiarity to it, the actuality, you've just gone down a couple of rungs in this place of stillness, can remember that, oh yeah, I put these tools into place. I did upgrade. I did up level. I do have this other part of me that I may not be aware of right now that has the strength, that has the stamina, that has the voice, and said no. And that's where, oh, my journey then continues there. not from the beginning. That is our life journey. It is like that. We don't always go back to the beginning, although oftentimes we feel familiarity from the beginning. We're not always back in the beginning. Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
We have strength that we have built into ourselves. We have stamina. We have chutzpah.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have chutzpah.
It's so perfect. Is there
Yes.
anything else you wanted to share with us? And while you're thinking about that, I just want to say that perfect place of stillness. When Angela was saying that, I remember, years ago, my perfect time when my whole mind would just shut down and I would get these creative things or I'd zone out would be when I was washing dishes. And it was just such a beautiful, peaceful time. And the kids could be screaming, doing whatever. It was just such a great time. So just be aware of all those times when you're doing that, because I think you'll be surprised at how aware you truthfully are, because there's such a beautiful awareness that then becomes the embodiment.
Yeah. In the grocery store. I like that how you said that, Renee, could just be washing dishes. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking repotting a plant.
Yes. Oh, yes, because the earth, dirt, and all the stuff.
The dirt. Being in the flower garden, pulling weeds.
Yeah.
So we pull weeds from our own garden, like we pull weeds from our flower garden. Just walking down the sidewalk,
Mm.
just taking a walk. In my neighborhood, I'm in a old part of Santa Clara in California, and the houses are built in the mid 1800s.
Oh, beautiful.
They're Victorians in the area. So, and the flower gardens are beautiful. And I just go look at the flower gardens. I'll take a picture. There's a park nearby. I'll just walk to the park and back. It's 10 minutes from me.
Mm-hmm.
So simple things, just that you can just breathe and connect back in. Go out and do the 4-4-5 breath, but step outside.
Yeah.
Even in parts of the country where it's snowing, but be in the fresh air. Doesn't have to be long,
Mm-hmm.
but in the fresh air. Simple things to get back into that place of stillness, because sometimes the physical body does find it easier. And I do. It's like when I take my physical body to a place of stillness, and my emotional body can be in a place of stillness as well. Yeah. Yeah. The flower mart, the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love that. We have flower marts in our grocery stores here. So the flower mart in the grocery store, just go and look at the flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Connecting with nature, petting a dog or a cat. So simple. Look at the birds. Be in the wind.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Tons of ideas there. So nobody can say, why I don't know how to do that, or I don't know what I can do. So it just is Angela did as a child, sit on the porch in the sun.
Watch silly pictures on I'm a YouTube user, so I just go, look at silly pictures on YouTube of animals.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones there, a lot of funny ones there.
Cat antics, dog antics. I'm an animal lover. I love animals. Um, just goofy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Watch a comedy.
Yes. Yeah, get some fun in life. If life doesn't seem fun, interject fun, happiness, joy.
Yeah.
The more you're doing,
Listen,
show up.
listen to music that speaks to your soul. I think music that is very intense, that can express deep emotion, like heavy metal, has its place, but the soul also likes to be soothed and calmed. So one of the music I like to listen to, I listen to a variety of music, but what grounds me is drumming music.
Mm.
Native American drum and flute, wood flute.
Mm-hmm.
Very calming, very soothing.
Yeah.
So that's very grounding.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's important, that people start to recognize that no doubt you don't just gravitate to one type of music. if you're used to one particular thing, that's your comfort zone, start to experiment with other ones, because you'll be surprised at how your body responds to different musics. I mean, you might find, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that. But try it and see what the body feels like. That's a great exercise to do with when you were saying, earlier on, okay, well, what's the, I can't remember exactly how you said, but what's my base point? What does my body base point feel like? Okay, now I'm feeling anxious. Now, okay, what music is responding to this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great because you put this on like, oh, okay, here's what I'm feeling. Because I know that, there's some people out there like, I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know. Put music on, different genres of music. What do you feel? That'll tell you right away. You'll get a feel for your body at that point.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't know what your body's feeling, even in that place, I don't know, just notice what that feels like. What does the I don't know feel like? Does
Mm-hmm.
it feel like frustration? Does it feel like tension? Does it feel like anxiousness? I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Or does it feel like, what the hell, I don't know?
Right.
It could be that.
Mm-hmm.
Be that.
Yeah. So
So another resource I want to make sure that I bring in here is the tapping solution. It's a
love
full
them.
freedom technique with tapping.
Mm-hmm.
It's available. You can get an app for it, and has all kinds of efficacy studies and efficacy to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I definitely want to make sure I mention that as a great resource
Mm-hmm.
as well,
Yeah.
because I'll use it in sessions. So if EMDR is not accessible, a practitioner isn't accessible, the tapping solution can also um, be very useful and helpful. Plus, I like it because it's accessible. It doesn't require a practitioner.
Right. Yeah.
All the self-help stuff is, I am like, yes, let's bring it on.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Absolutely. Well, Angela, I want you to stay on because I want to get some information from you so I can put all the links in the description so people have them. But I thank you so much for being here. Tons
Oh,
of golden nuggets there, everybody. So, pay attention. And I'm sure this is something you'll be listening to over and over to grab all the information she got. And please put the stuff into effect for yourself. It's such a great way to be, to embody who and what you truthfully are. Angela, thank you for being here. Any things for everybody?
I just, first of all, thank you, Renee. Thank you for this opportunity of being on the world stage, which and and an opportunity to serve people, humanity, in a way that really touches my heart, and that this is my purpose, this is my joy, this is why I'm here, is to be able to serve humanity through this evolutionary process that we're in right now, and to let people know this too will pass. It will pass, that there is light at the end of the tunnel here.
Mhm,
So the only part is, don't know when. Stay in the now. Stay present to the heart opening now. And
mhm,
that fosters more of that energy out. That's what we get to begin to put back in to our greater experience of our life journey. So, so I thank you, everybody, for listening and for checking in, for participating. And may you all have beautiful, beautiful, um, loving, nurturing, kind relationships in your lives.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. Okay, everybody, go have an awesome time creating your day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.